The Locker Room, with all the sports news you need, live.
And thank you for joining me this Sunday. I'm joined here by Robbie and Alistair. Thank you for joining me, guys. It's great to have you on.
No problem.
Good to see you back. Hi, good to see you again.
So, obviously, guys, a big day of Scottish football yesterday. What was your standout thing for you that happened yesterday?
You can go first, Robbie, because you're a better day than I did.
Aye, I mean, obviously it was a brilliant win for us, but I mean, if you're watching the Aberdeen-Dundee game, you can't help but be impressed with Aberdeen. I mean, we'll touch on it later, but being 6-0 down, you know, that can take a lot of momentum out of you. But they bounced back straight away with a big win over Dundee, so that was probably my result of yesterday.
Aye, I'm just about surprised you didn't mention the Paisley Buddies there. But what a performance by them as well, Robbie.
Aye, brilliant performance for us. I mean, we had to go to, you know, the last time we were in Edinburgh taking on Hearts, it didn't go well. We conceded a lot of cheap goals, so we had a message to put, and I think we did it perfectly. I mean, we'll touch on it later. The first half, as I said before the show started, probably the best 45 minutes I've seen us play all season. We were outstanding, so it was a really, really well-deserved 3 points.
And Alistair, what about your team, St Johnstone?
Well, the only highlight we had was when we thought we'd equalised in the 90th minute. And then, of course, VAR, correctly, it must be said, intervened to chalk it off. But, yeah, it's, again, we'll talk about it later on. We can't defend. It's as simple as that. I mean, we're actually playing a totally different style of football. We're dominating possession. Even when we played St Mirren the other week, we dominated possession. Same against Hearts. We had 2/3 possession against Motherwell. Motherwell took advantage of the fact that we can't defend, and we give away soft goals. And if we could stop doing that, if we can get to the mid-term break and the window opens up again and get some defenders in, then I think we've got a chance of staying up. But that's where the problem is. Simple as that.
And obviously there's a big match on today at 3 o'clock at Rugby Park. Me and Robbie are watching it, so when if any goal goes in, we will let you know. Robbie, what's your thoughts on this match?
That should be a very interesting match. I mean, Kelly, obviously, they've picked up form. Obviously, Rugby Park already beaten Rangers a couple of weeks ago. But you can't look past Celtic. It's been an absolute outstanding couple of weeks for them. I mean, dominating Leipzig in the Champions League, beating Aberdeen, who are undoubtedly right now second best team in the country, 6-0. I mean, what a couple of weeks it's been for Celtic. So if you're coming to this down, you've got to be confident if you're a Celtic fan. But Kilmarnock will be right up for the challenge, and I think McInnes made that clear before the game. You know, he knows that if his team plays well, they can get results at Rugby Park. So it should be a very, very interesting game.
Yeah, and I think in terms of, don't think there'll be any real excuse for Brendan Rodgers about the plastic park as well, because I think I'm right in saying the last time Celtic played there, they won for 5-0 when they won the title. Alistair?
Yeah, I mean, as regards the game that's on just now, I mean, I obviously live quite near Kilmarnock, so I've got a lot of friends who are Kilmarnock fans and season ticket holders, and talking to them this morning, their view was, we'll either get hammered or it'll be 0-0. And I pointed out it's not likely to be 0-0 because I don't think Celtic have actually had a nil scoreline for a long, long time, apart from at their end. Kelly will be gutted after losing it against Dundee. I mean, that was a game I thought they were going to win. And I've got an interest in this today as well, because we're playing them next after the break, and we're playing them at Perth. So again, it's another really, really important game for us. But like Robbie, I'll be amazed if Celtic don't win. That said, I'd be amazed if Spurs didn't beat Ipswich, and Ipswich, I believe, are currently winning 2-0.
I think that's a great point you make, Alistair. And I think, obviously, Derek knows that he's well capable of taking something from this match. And I think the strength of that squad as well, Robbie, there's some players in there that can cause Celtic real problems.
100%. I mean, Kelly have one of the best attacks, you know, in the league. It's really dangerous. You know, you've got Armstrong, Watkins, they've got really, really good options, but they're solid defensively as well. So it's a really well-rounded Kilmarnock team. But it showed the camera there. Arne Engels, for example, for Celtic, he is worth more than the whole Kilmarnock team put together. So it just shows you the type of quality Celtic also have on the pitch as well.
I think he's worth more than the entire Kilmarnock and another Scottish Premier team put together, never mind Kilmarnock. You're right, though, about one of the things I think is good about Kilmarnock is that they play with width. And I don't know what you guys think, but I love to watch a team that's got at least one winger. If you've got two wingers, they've obviously got Matty Kennedy and they've got Armstrong. Both of them are really good potential match winners on their day. And it just makes football attractive to watch. It makes it enjoyable to go and watch. Whereas if you're actually just building up from the back and slowly trying eventually to carve an opening in the 76th minute and win 1-0, yeah, don't get me wrong, it's great if you win 1-0, but I'd much, much rather watch a team having a go and trying to attack.
Well, Alistair, let me tell you, I mean, last season when we brought in McMenamin and we obviously had Kilty for a while, you could see the whole plan with Robinson was to build a team with width. And now that we've got them back, McMenamin had his first start of the season. You can see the way we're about to play now with that width, and I think that's why we sort of struggled early on in the season. The system that Robinson was using wasn't the preferred one. We like to play with the wingers, so having McMenamin and Kilty back, it's almost an attractive player of football to watch. It was really, really good to watch yesterday. So I completely agree with that point.
A big chance here, Robbie, for Celtic. Adam Ida, he's about 12 yards out there. And you just go after his shot.
I think with I pretty much thought he should have done better there, but it's a big decision to start either over Kyogo. I mean, I think that's always the debate weekly. I mean, who's going to start in that sort of game? But he's went with him. I think if I had to put a prediction, we'll probably score this game.
See, if I was to ask you for a prediction, Robbie, what would you say that your prediction would be?
If I had to make a prediction, I'd go 3-1 Celtic. I think Celtic will. I feel like Kilmarnock is a type of game where they'll score first, but I think Celtic will just be too strong. I mean, that defence as well. Trusted, he's been absolutely amazing since he's came into Celtic. I thought he had a really, really good game against Leipzig. So it's a really, really well balanced Celtic team as well.
Alistair, I don't know about you, but I thought that was one of the best Celtic displays I've seen in Europe for a very, very long time on Tuesday.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, Celtic are head and shoulders above everybody else in Scotland, but the proof of the pudding, I think, for most Celtic fans is how they actually getting on against better teams in Europe. And obviously, after getting totally tonked in Germany, there were questions being asked, not unreasonably, and I think they actually answered that when they went, and played in Italy and they got the draw, and then, yeah, they were brilliant. So I think in terms of Scottish football, the coefficient, all these kind of things, while you actually don't normally put sort of rivalries aside, it's really important that our teams do well in Europe. And yeah, I'm sure Rangers fans would sort of say this through gritted teeth, but it's in their interest to some extent that Celtic actually do well, because it increases the chances of getting more of our teams into the top level of Europe.
I think that's a good point you make. We'll get the first chance here for the home team. There'll be a free kick, and we'll tell you how it goes. But I just want to ask you, Robbie, in terms of Celtic during the week, what did you make of it?
I thought Celtic was absolutely outstanding during the week. I mean, like as Alistair said, there was a lot of question marks over Celtic. From what I heard, a lot of the German press were writing Celtic off before the ball was even kicked in the game. And rightly so after what happened in Germany. So there was a lot of questions for Celtic to answer, and I thought they did it exceptionally well. I thought the first half, I mean, it was quite a slow burn at again into the game. I thought at points Celtic's set piece defending was quite poor. I mean, I thought Aubin had a few decent chances off a Carter Vickers, but Celtic dug in there, and you've got to say Nicholas Kund, I mean, that first finish into the bottom corner off the post, wow, what a goal that was. I thought Celtic was absolutely exceptional after that. I thought that completely changed the game. I mean, I think Leipzig had a good chance with Sesko up front to get back into it, and if that goes in, then it's probably a different game. But I thought Celtic were absolutely exceptional. That's probably the best Celtic performance in Europe I've watched live, to be honest. I can't really think back to any other ones. You know, I'm obviously a young guy, I didn't really see the Barcelonas or anything like that, so I can't comment on them. But aye, it was a really, really good performance for Celtic.
I think there's quite a few Celtic fans who are my age who might actually disagree with saying that's the best Celtic performance in Europe because they might remember Lisbon, but I mean that's probably because they're a lot older than you are, you know. And indeed Reagan.
Yeah, sadly I wasn't alive in 67, Alistair. Oh, a big chance for Kamala here. No, Celtic did well.
Well, I was alive in 67 and I do remember it. And I remember at that, I mean, you got to bear in mind at that time, Rangers were a very, very good team as well. And, you know, we've got Kilmarnock playing today. A couple of years before that, Kilmarnock won the league. So, you know, the sort of general strength of Scottish football at that time was staggering compared to where we are now. To some extent, that actually put Celtic's performance in midweek into perspective because we're starting from a much lower base, so there's less expectation. But there is no doubt that, well, in my view, let's just put it like that, the absolute golden era of Scottish football was that late 60s, early 70s when you're actually competing and getting European Cup finals. And I'd throw in the 80s as well with Aberdeen and Dundee United.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, I was just going to say, Alistair, while you're here, I mean, no, I don't want to cast your mind back to the game too much because it didn't go your way, but I didn't ask you about St Mirren St Johnstone because it was quite an interesting game, and I just wanted to sort of get your thoughts on, you know, what did you make of the game overall?
What did I make the game overall? I think that you can see our changed the way we're playing football. We're actually playing possession football. We looked like a poor man's Man City in the first half. We were actually passing out of defence and it was sticking to players. And if I think St Davies' goal that was disallowed was very soft. The other one, yeah, fair enough. It was either a wee push or it was fractionally offside. But again, you go to game, the 7 goals scored, 3 of them don't count. I don't know anybody. Well, that's not true. I know one person, but he's my accountant, so he doesn't probably count from that point of view, who actually thinks VAR's a good thing. And to answer your question, St Mirren battered us in the second half. You know, there is no way St Mirren didn't deserve to win the game. If we'd got the second goal, I think it would have been a different game. But it's all what, you know, ifs and buts. We're certainly playing a lot better football, but the defensive weakness is there for everybody to see. And there's really not much going to change until we get the defence sorted out. St Mirren, we went to that actually looking forward to that, thinking we've got a reasonable shout here. You'd have taken a draw because you're away. But the way St Mirren actually approached the second half, and they'd obviously watched how we'd played against Hearts and Dundee, so they knew how we were going to play, and they were very, very good. 3-1, does it flatter them? Possibly, given the disallowed goals, but then again, you're a goal disallowed as well. So, St Mirren are where they are in the league by virtue of the fact that they're a good team and they deserve to be there.
I thought one thing that was interesting for the game was watching Valakari on the touchline, and obviously it's the first chance I've actually got to see him. He's a very, very interesting manager. He's almost loud but not loud. You know, sometimes he'll be right out in the touchline screaming at the players, and then other times he'll just be standing there looking confused. I thought one thing I took for the game was I think Valakali's realised how important Clark might be to the team. I thought everything that came through the middle of the park came through him, and I actually thought, I agree with you, in the first half you were a poor man's Man City. You absolutely played through us, and at points we actually couldn't handle it, and I thought for a couple of chances that, you know, it showed how, I don't want to say poor, I feel like poor's the wrong word, but the quality of players were sort of low because there was a few passing movements that just fell right to us when, you know, if you've got a higher quality player, it probably works out. So I actually thought in the first half, St Johnstone got very unlucky not to probably be 3-0 up by half time, if I'm being honest. That's the way the game sort of went. But I agree with you. I think we built into it very, very well in the second half and probably deserved the 3 points in the end.
There's no doubt you did. And I think you can see that with your game at the week against Hibs. You're playing teams at the bottom of the league, which, okay, because you've been through a sticky patch, St Mirren. So, you know, any St Mirren fans, you'll know better than I do. And I've got a couple of other friends who are St Mirren fans, and they were going into that St Johnstone game. Well, you know, because we met beforehand and we're chatting about it. It was a must-win for you guys. It was probably not quite so much a must-win for us, but we'd have still taken a point at least. Whereas our next game against Killie is a must-win. And you look at the teams at the bottom, you look at Dundee coming back against Killie, which I didn't see coming. I didn't see Dundee getting anything out of Aberdeen. As it happened, they didn't. So it's going to be really, really tough, I think, for a lot of clubs. Hearts in particular are just a enigma. How on earth a team with so many good players is so far down the league is beyond me.
Yeah, I was just going to get on to the match yesterday for Aberdeen. They're obviously sitting absolutely flying at the moment, guys. 4-1 victory. I don't know if you managed to watch the game, Robbie, or after, but Dundee had a lot of good chances the first half. They missed a penalty. They had 2 other great chances as well. So Aberdeen, they played really well second half, but first half it shows that all of these teams can still match Aberdeen.
Yeah, I mean, by the first half, I think, in terms of the overall game, I'm running out of words to describe Aberdeen at this point. They always find a way to get the 3 points, no matter who they seem to be playing. I thought, first of all, with the penalty, it was great work for Simon Murray. I thought, to get in front of your man like that, especially when the ball looks to be going out of play, was impressive. And it was a definite penalty. It was just, it was one of them where he's always going to push him down. But it was a good save for Mitov as well. When the penalty was actually struck, I thought, I've been one that's very much said, Xander Clark's probably my favourite goalkeeper outside the Old Firm, but I think Mitov sort of showed that he's probably one of the best outside the Old Firm, if not the best. I think at points during that game, especially in the first half, he was absolutely excellent. He made a few good saves. To be honest, the highlights didn't show many Dundee chances for what I saw, but I do agree. I thought Dundee had a better first half than Aberdeen. I actually thought it was quite an open game at points, but in the second half, I think it was the third goal, where it was just a quick wee dinky at the top for the free kick. I thought that was a brilliant bit of play and a nice finish as well. So I thought Aberdeen after the second half deserved to win, but it was a really strong first half for Dundee, and I think seeing online the reaction that people want Tony Docherty to go on, I think that's a lot of nonsense. I think if you're a Dundee fan, the man who probably is most likely to turn it around will be Tony Docherty. It's sort of like our situation where we were on the bad one, people wanting Robinson out, but he's probably the guy that's going to turn it around for us. So, and he has, to give him credit. So I think if you're a Dundee fan, you need to stick by Docherty because I think he is probably the best man for you.
Well,
sorry, Ian.
No, I was just going to say, I think that's a good point you made because if you look at social media yesterday, I don't know if you've seen it, Alistair, but there was a lot of people talking about Sure Kettlewell as well. They were saying that the brand of football was no good, but I don't know if they've looked at the table, but Motherwell sitting fourth on the table.
Well, as you know, whenever anybody comes up with this kind of stuff, my response is always Craig Levine's available. So, if you're ever wondering whether you should change your manager, just bear that in mind. I can't get my head around it. Kettlewell was it 15 games last season when they didn't win? And they stuck with them, and look where they are now. We've just seen Coventry bin Mark Robbins, and their fans are going nuts because the guy's taken them up the leagues. He's got them nearly to, he probably should have got them to an FA Cup final. Clubs do change their managers far, far too quickly. And again, it's partly social media. I mean, you made the point, Reagan, that, if you look at social media, nobody's happy about anything, at all. Even when they win, they won't care about it. It just does not make sense. And as I've said in the show before, there's not that many great managers. You can see the difference when Thelen comes in Aberdeen. He's obviously made a difference. Clubs like Robbie's club, like my club, like Dundee as well, they thrive when they've got good managers who can identify players and bring them in. And the rest of the time, we sort of bumble along with fairly average managers. And that is undoubtedly the situation for most Scottish clubs. There are not that many. There's not many Alex Ferguson's, Jock Steins. I think St Mirren have got a great manager. Why would you want to get rid of him? He's got you into Europe. He's got you. I've said again on this show before, you're almost like St Johnstone were a few years back. You're secure. You're going to be in the top half of the league. Probably. You've probably got a chance of going on quarterfinals at least of some of the cups. And once in a blue moon, you might get lucky and win something. And that's really all clubs like St Johnstone, St Mirren, Dundee United can really hope for realistically. We just can't compete with Celtic or Rangers for that matter.
And I think that's a good point that Alistair makes, Robbie, in terms of, I think some people just like a brand new name every single week, but it's important for a bit of reality here. Stephen Robinson and Stuart Gatewell are brilliant managers.
Yeah, I mean, not to dig too much into our fans, but I think a lot of them seem to think that we should be competing for Europe every season. Now, I'm not saying we can't. I think we've definitely got a good enough squad. But the reality is we have probably the 8th or 9th biggest budget in the league. We're not that sort of top 6 budget. Hibs sort of Hearts, I know they're in bad form right now, but they definitely have, the budget where they probably should be sitting above us now. For Robinson to still even be in this job, I'm shocked, to be honest. I thought he would have left at the end of last season. It seems apparent that no one's really put in an offer for him yet, which it'll be interesting to see what happens when they do, because, I think if it was definitely an English club, he'd probably fancy his chances at another run in England. But I think some of our fans need to, realise that we're not going to have this forever. Like St Johnstone were a couple of seasons ago, and no doubt we will be back down in that sort of position in a few years' time. Now, obviously, I hope not. I hope we keep going upwards and we don't stop. But that's just the reality of Scottish football. It happens. We will go through a bad stage again. So I think fans need to, take this with both hands and realise that this won't last forever. We won't get into Europe every season for the next 10 years. We won't do well in cup runs. Every season we seem to be drawing Celtic at home in the cup or away. So it'll probably happen again in the Scottish Cup. But I just think our fans are far too. I don't really know what the right word is to describe it, but we're just a bit too
unrealistic.
Yeah, unrealistic, I think is the right word. We have such high expectations now. I think Robinson's made that very clear. But I think I seen a comment online after the Hibs game yesterday, people slating the way we played in the game, saying that we got lucky to get the 3 points. I'm like, did you even watch the game? Because we absolutely battered Hibs, and that's like, I think 3 out of the last 4 times we've went to the capital and took on Hibs at Easter Road, and we've absolutely battered them after the park. So, we just need to take positives when we can get them. But I think, Alistair, you'll understand as well. Where clubs, you always get these type of comments where, you could be playing out of your skin. You could be playing like Tiki Taka, Barcelona, right? And you still get comments saying that it wasn't good enough. It just happened. But I definitely think that Motherwell done the right thing keeping Kettlewell, and you can see it now because they're getting results on the pitch and they're sitting where they are in the league for a good reason. They're playing well. So I think fans need to start sticking by the managers.
Yeah, and they've lost their talisman striker as well. You bear in mind that Theo Bair's gone, and he was the guy who basically scored all the goals. Because if you've got somebody scoring 15 goals, you're going to stay up.
I think that's a great point you make in terms of look at players over the past couple of years that teams have lost and then they struggle to replace them.
Yeah, well, that applies to. Even though it applies to Celtic, because Kuhn is being linked with Brentford, I see in the press just now. So, again, the reality of Scottish football, if even Celtic are a selling club now, despite the fact that they're clearly ahead of everybody else in Scotland. I mean, going back to your manager's thing, Robbie, what you were saying, I can see, and this just shows you how fickle Scottish fans are. Falkirk look like they're going to get promoted by Christmas the way they're going. And if they come up and they go into a bad run, you can just see the Falkirk fans all going, get him out, he's rubbish. Because that's what, unfortunately, quite a lot of fans are like. I think, to be fair, the majority are actually quite sensible, but they're not the ones who are shouting on social media, and that's where, obviously, a lot of the press pick up on stuff, and the press love taking a drama and making a crisis out of it, so that doesn't help either.
I just want to ask you, Robbie, in terms of Aberdeen, obviously, they've got 3 tough away matches now. When they go away to Tynecastle, they go away to St Mirren, and they go away, and I think they go away. Is it Easter Road as well, Robbie?
I'm not too sure if it's Easter Road. I know they've got us away next. But I mean,
and then they go to Tynecastle after that. So I think these are the kind of tests when we'll probably see Aberdeen.
Yeah, I mean, this will show, not to, again, speak too early because that's what everybody seems to do, but this will show whether Aberdeen can compete for that second place, I think. Going away to these grounds, coming to Paisley, I mean, we've seen what happened last time with the 2 last-minute goals. it's a difficult place to come for managers, and you know, obviously, I know you asked me a different question. I'll answer in a minute, but you know, if Fellaini started going on a bad run, there would no doubt be people again in the comments writing, "Get this man out. He's not the man for us." I don't think that'll happen because I think Aberdeen fans are a bit smarter than that and realise after Neil Warnock that this is the man to take Aberdeen forward. So I don't think they'll be writing that anytime soon. But to answer your question, I mean, it'll show where Aberdeen are, and I think if you're an Aberdeen fan, you've got to be hopeful that you probably could get all 9 points out of these next 3 games. I don't think it's too, out of the picture. I think as well as we are playing, the last time we faced Aberdeen early in the season, we were actually still playing all right getting into that game as well. We just came off the back of giving Brann and Norway a very good game and beating Hibs 3-0 on the opening day. So we were on some very good form getting into that game, and yet Aberdeen absolutely tore us apart over the 90 minutes. So I think that this will show where Aberdeen's quality are, but there's no doubt in my mind that they'll probably get 6 or 7 points out of these next 3 games because they just have that quality and they have that feeling that they can go to any grounds really and pick up the points.
I think it shows as well, Robbie, that Aberdeen have lost their best player in Miovski and they've still managed to do okay.
Yeah, I mean, Miovski was always a big miss when he left, but again, Kevin Nisbet comes into the door and you see how well he's doing. Obviously, he got his goal yesterday, so I think Aberdeen in every department are very, very solid. And I don't want to keep mentioning his name because it feels like I'm doing it every week. But I know he was missing yesterday. But the midfield, in particular, Jamie McGrath, he's just been that guy that I've watched every week, and he feels like almost one of the most underrated players in the Premiership. I mean, that man deserves so much more credit than he gets, in my opinion. I think he's an absolute tremendous football player, and to just sum up the rest of the Aberdeen team, I mean, it's got quality all over. So I think even losing Miovski, but adding Duke back as well is another big a big player for Aberdeen. So they have a very, very good team, and it's a team capable of pushing the likes of Rangers to second place. So it'll be interesting to see how the season unfolds.
Alistair, what are you thinking of Aberdeen?
Oh, I agree with Robbie. I think, they've lost their best player, but you wouldn't know it, would you? I mean, because with their best player last year, they were pretty rubbish, in Aberdeen's terms. I think one of the points Robbie made earlier is actually quite important. Signing Mitov makes a huge difference. I know because I've watched him for the whole season. He was instrumental in St Johnstone staying up last year, and he could well be instrumental in Aberdeen being second because he will make big saves that other keepers won't make. He's obviously the Bulgarian international keeper. I think he's not as good as Schmeichel at his peak, not as good as Butland at his peak, but certainly, one of the best goalkeepers, as you said, Robbie, in Scotland. But when you look at the midfield, you look at there they are scoring 4 goals yesterday. And okay, it was second half, and Dundee undoubtedly with a better team in the first half. I think that's fair comment. Everybody, when I watched the highlights, I've read a few reports on it, and everybody said if Dundee had scored a couple of goals, then you wouldn't have been that surprised. That's not the way football works. And Nisbet, I think it was Nisbet took the free kick for the third goal. And I heard Tony Dock absolutely fulminating after the game about how poor the defending was. I was just thinking it was a brilliant ball. It bisected the defenders, and the boy's onto it, and he scores a really good goal. And Aberdeen, they're not going in the league, with the greatest respect to any Aberdeen fans that are watching, because Celtic are just got so much more strength and depth. And you could see that, obviously, in this Cup semi-final. But I think Aberdeen certainly, based on what we've seen so far, will be kicking themselves if they don't finish second.
I think that's right, Rob, because no disrespect, but I don't think Rangers are in great shakes this season.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. And where the way Rangers are going, they will drop more points in big games. I mean, it just seems to be happening all over the place right now. They get a good point away in Greece. I watched the highlights. It was actually a very well taken goal for Dessers. So again, I know he made the comment after the game about, if I was scoring 3 a game, I wouldn't be in Scotland. And as funny as that is to hear a player say it, it's true that if he was scoring all these goals that people, slate him for missing a game, he'd be playing with Real Madrid. So again, I think Dessers is one of the players that gets too much hate, but I think Aberdeen definitely can get second, and I think Rangers again gone to these tough away grounds like us. I know they play us on Boxing Day. I'm sure they'll play Aberdeen again at some point. Obviously, they'll play Hearts and Celtic and stuff. They will drop more points, and if Aberdeen can just beat the teams that they need to beat, there's no doubt they'll be in second place come the end of the season.
Aye, moving on to Dundee, Robbie. What do you make of Dundee so far?
Dundee, I mean, they're sitting sixth. Am I right in saying sixth, seventh? I think they're sitting in around that point. So I think, again, getting back to the Dundee fans' point about, maybe wanting Docherty gone, I think if you look at where they are, and I've read something about it earlier on Twitter, the Dundee fan made a point that, they are in a position where if they were there at the end of the season, no fan would complain. It just seems to be, when you're taking that type of beating from Aberdeen, it's very tough to, it's tough to see positives for that. But I think they can take positives for the first half. For what I've read and seen, it was a very, very good, performance in the first half. So I think Dundee fans can take a lot of positives, and I think come the end of the season they'll be fine. I don't think there's any danger of them splitting into a relegation battle. But I also don't see them pushing for the top four. So I think they'll be around that, 5th, 6th, 7th sort of spot come the end of the season. But I still think Docherty's the man to take them forward. They've got quality there. I think Simon Murray's proven a very good player for them. So they definitely have players.
Yeah. I just want to ask you now, Robbie, what about you, St Mirren? A great performance at Easter Road yesterday.
Yeah, again, I say that it's probably the best performance I've seen us have all season, especially the first half. I thought, getting into the game, I was a bit worried because, as good as it was getting the win over St Johnstone, we had then just drawn with Ross County 0-0 in a game where I admit I've not even seen the highlights back. I've watched the penalty and that was it. I couldn't even face to watch that 0-0. But for what I've heard, we were very slack, and I suppose if we score that penalty, the game goes a different way. But just in terms of the game, I mean, I think I said it online, we have got the most injury-ridden team in Scotland. We have so many players out, and we could barely even field a back line yesterday. We had, I think, 4 youth players on the bench. So, to them guys that are Slayton Robinson, look at what he's done with a team that's very, very slim right now. It is brilliant to see.
I think that's a great point you make in terms of he's still managing to get every ounce out of the players that he's got available.
Yeah, 100%. And he said it in his press conference after the game. I think somebody asked him, what are you going to prepare for during the international break? And he said, not get enough players to prepare for it. And so I think, I know it was a joke, but I think he knows that the squad is very thin right now. We desperately need January because, Blues and the 2 players, contract getting terminated, it was always a big miss. And if we can get into January and there's a specific striker, Kieran Offord, that we've got on loan right now playing in Ireland, he is scoring just any goal he wants at this point. He scored an overhead kick. He's scoring week in, week out, and he actually looks like he's got a lot more physical in his loan spell. So if we can get him back in January, and I think we probably will get him and Fraser Taylor or both back, who I believe now has 3 goals and 5 assists in his last 7 games or something like that for Arbroath. He is absolutely, he's doing so well for Arbroath. So that's good to see. Hopefully we can get them 2 back, and that adds a bit more squad depth. But one thing I will say about the game was, even before it started, there was a trialist spotted training with us. I can't remember his name. I think it's Declan John, who used to play with Rangers. I think that's his name. Left back. Welsh.
I remember him playing for Rangers, Robbie. He was quite good as well.
Yeah, he was pictured training with us yesterday before the game, so I don't know if we're going to sign him, but I definitely take it. It's another number in the squad. I just think we need numbers right now, and I think the international break, a lot of times I don't like saying, the international breaks came at the right time, but I think it has for us. As much as watching Scotland right now is no the funnest of times, I definitely think it's came at the right time for us. And when we get back and we've got Jakaviti back and stuff like that, we'll be a much better team than we already are, which is saying something considering if you look at the performance yesterday. we looked like, a completely different side to a few weeks ago. Before the St Johnstone game, Alistair was saying to you, it could be worrying times for us if we didn't beat St Johnstone. Thankfully, we did. I think that was even more important looking at how the Ross County game played out. But to go away again to Easter Road, where, no matter how bad Hibs are playing, it's a really, really tough ground to go to. And to be as dominant as we were was really, really refreshing to see. And I saw a lot of people online slating O'Hara and Phillips recently. I mean, I think yesterday showed why they're the midfield two that Robinson's picking week in, week out. I thought they were tremendous. I think I touched on it earlier, but Kwon, Triantes and Newell in the midfield was probably one of the worst performances I've seen for a midfield this season. They were absolutely rotten throughout the whole game. I did not enjoy them at all watching them, and it's quite funny because I absolutely love Kwon at us, but he looks a night and day player compared to what he was at us. So I think Hibs, I know we're touching on us, but I think with Hibs there's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and I'm actually surprised Gray's not been sacked right now, to be honest with you. But just in terms of the game, I mean, I think our goals, I don't want to take too much away from McMenamin because, on the first one, it was a great bit of play. O'Hara just gets out left to Tanser. Tanser probably been our player of the season so far. Puts in an absolutely tremendous ball.
Yeah, that's been really good, Robbie.
Yeah, Tanser.
Just want to ask you about this. See, in terms of when it went to 2-1, did you have any bad feeling? Because I'm watching about the match, and I felt like St Mirren were really, really dominating the match.
Yeah, when it went to 2-1, I was like, we're going to sit on this. I know Hibs that gets flung around quite a lot, but it's very like us to concede 2 late goals. And to be honest, when Boyle hit that ball and it went in, I was not surprised. I just sort of looked and I went, I'm used to this now. But thankfully, I think it was Dwight Gale was standing offside in the 6-yard box, so we get let off the hook massively. But if they had snatched a 2-2, that would have been the jammiest result of the season because they did not deserve that at all. I actually thought Hibs were really, really bad, and I always try and look at positives for the other team, but I actually wrote down 0 positives for Hibs. I thought they were rotten yesterday. I thought Boyle, the man that they rely on to carry them through results, had a really, really bad penalty, and I thought his overall game was bad as well. I think Hibs are trying too hard to play through him.
Sorry, Robbie, I have to cut you off there, but a massive chance at Robbie Park's home team. A massive chance.
A big chance, and I can't believe he's not scored.
I should score. He should score. Kilmarnock a full 1-1 with the Celtic number 1, and it just flashes by the post. Oh, it just hits the post. I thought it was in the net.
Liam Scales has done far too easily there. Scales just it presses too much, and I think it was a good turn for I think that was Watkins.
Yeah, it says Watkins on the report. I've not got the advantage of watching it, but I can see what's coming through on the BBC update. It says it was Watkins.
Yeah, Watkins turns Scales very, very well and gets himself into a good position. I can't believe he's not scored.
Yeah, Robbie, I think he should score. I think if the home team don't win this match, they can certainly look back on that chance and say that was a big chance to go 1-0 up against Celtic.
Well, it's the type of game where, like watching them against Rangers, if you miss them type of chances, it usually does come back to haunt you. But against Rangers, obviously, they managed to get the goal. Here, I still think Celtic will probably win this game, but it's been a very poor opening 40 minutes in terms of Celtic standard you've got. I don't know if you'd agree, Reagan, but Celtic have been very, very slow getting into this game.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of European hangover. I think it is. But I think fair play to the home team. They've been knocking the ball about pretty well. And they're creating quite a few chances. And they're making it difficult. But like you said, I don't think Scales at the back for Celtic has started too well. He's misplacing passes and stuff like that. So I think it's a pretty difficult match for Celtic so far, Robbie.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Scales, I don't think it's done too much wrong this season, to be honest with you. Obviously found himself at the team in the Champions League game, but I don't think he's done anything too bad in this game. It seems a bit shaky right now. I don't know if that's just because he's coming back in, but it's been a very slow start for Celtic, and Kelly seemed to be picking up every single loose ball. But just to quickly get back to Easter Road, and I don't know if you guys seen the penalty decisions, but I thought the first one was very, very soft. The way Boyle goes down, for me, that was never a penalty. I think it was O'Hara that made the tackle. I just think Boyle goes down really, really soft, and I don't know if you guys would agree, but I'd say that was never a penalty for me.
Yeah, I think the problem is that in the famous Willie Young phrase, it's like a boiled egg. It can be hard boiled or soft boiled. It's still a boiled egg. He may have added some adjectives, but I know what he means. Technically, you might say it is, but yeah, if you go in like a condemned house, then people are going to get upset about it. And I think, you're talking before about Simon Murray. I mean, he was clearly fouled. It was clearly a penalty, but he then absolutely threw his arms up there like he'd been hit by a sniper, just to actually emphasise the point in case the referee hadn't noticed. And you're kind of hoping that the referees will pick up on this stuff. There's been I know we're going off on a wee tangent here in relation to referees, but there's been a lot said about the quality of Scotland's referees. Here's an interesting thought for you, which I got from some of my referees' contacts. We had the boy Clancy doing the semi-final, Celtic against Aberdeen. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but I don't think he's on the FIFA list anymore. He's no longer got his white badge, and that applies to one of the other top referees. And it's been suggested to me that actually they quite often referee better when they're off the FIFA list because they haven't got the pressure to try and get up there and stay there. I thought Clancy had a good game against, in the semi-final. We had the boy Hardy refereeing our game yesterday. I thought he was, by and large, pretty good. But it's the penalties and it's the hard decisions that's where they've got to get it right. And the linesmen, the assistants, they just don't flag for offside now because they wait for a VAR to bail them out of jail. And I'm sorry, we'll go off into the VAR here, but it is actually ruining the game and somebody is going to get badly hurt. And when it's a Man City player or somebody like that, then all hell is going to break loose because they need to actually, in my view, make the technology work better. If we can have not just semi-automated offside, but completely automated offside, no question, it's offside, put your flag up, buzzer in gear, get on with the game. Penalties are much more difficult. Handballs, the penalty we got yesterday, there was claims for it, but the moment he actually went to the monitor, you knew he was going to give the penalty. And when you saw it back on the telly, actually, the referee's looking straight at it. Now, if in his view that's not a penalty, and I would have obviously preferred the penalty, but I could understand if he hadn't given it. So it wasn't a clear and obvious error, and this is part of the problem. Games have been re-refereed. And sorry, this is a long-winded rant about VAR and referees, but yeah, you're right. It was a soft penalty. You kind of just got to get on with it because we've all seen them. And do they even themselves out? There's some research being done by some people which suggests that they don't. There's some research which suggests that one team gets favoured, not suggesting which team it is. But on the other hand, it's a game. You've got to accept that people are going to make mistakes. And otherwise, just because it's a computer game, and you might as well have robots running about the park. End of rant.
To touch on the second penalty decision, I don't think there was any complaints about that one. It strikes Gogic arm. I don't even know what Gogic is trying to Davies him, to be honest with you. I've watched it back a few times and he just seems to be flinging it about, and it's almost like the one you were talking about with Halliday. I mean, I don't know if you think it's a penalty, but I thought Halliday's arm was very, very high up. I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but I thought in terms, the first penalty Hibs got, a very good save by Balcom and one that sort of regains his confidence. And I think I came on the show and said that, Balcom looks like he'll probably leave in January and we'll try and get another goalkeeper in because he looked that short of confidence that he didn't even look like he could kick a ball properly at points. I think there was a couple of times during the St Johnstone game where they launched goal kicks straight out for a throw-in. He was having that type of season where, it sort of happened to Hemming at the end of last season. He gets short of confidence after the game at Rugby Park where Kilmarnock beat us 5-2. His confidence just completely deflated after that, and he didn't look the same goalkeeper as he did at the start. But for Balcom, I think this might be the turning point. I think his confidence might be back. I hope it is because he is a good goalkeeper and there is a good goalkeeper in there. And, Brentford don't have him on a full year contract for nothing. They clearly see a bit of quality in him. So to have him until the end of the season, I think will still prove big. He made a very good save, and then obviously at the end, Hibs scored their penalty, the second one. It was a very good penalty. I can't remember who hit it now. I think it might have been you. Oh no, it was Carden. Carden hit the penalty. A very nice finish into the bottom left, but the equaliser that they thought they scored, I mean, I don't think there's any complaints about that one as well. The only thing I will say on that decision is I can't believe how long it took VAR to check it. If you watch the replay, it is so obvious that Dwight Gale is standing miles offside. And if you actually look at the replay, the linesman's looking right at him when it hits him. And it still takes about 3 to 4 minutes for the VAR to check it, which again comes back to the point, it is going far too slow for me. The fact that it's taking that long to check such an obvious decision in my eyes is, I couldn't believe how long it took. But we got away with it, get the 3 points, and I think they'll probably be sacked.
Yeah, I don't think it was offside they were checking. I think it was whether he was in line, because you can be standing in an offside position. For example, if he'd been 10 yards to the side, it wouldn't have mattered. I think it was he in line with the goalkeeper's line of vision, and did he put him off? I think that's why it took a long time.
Okay. Do you think they checked the offside as well? Do you think that's the only thing they checked?
I think it was he in the goalkeeper's line of vision? Did he put him off? Because the offside law is hard enough to understand at the best of times, because, as I said, if he was standing across by the corner flag, it wouldn't have mattered. He wasn't interfering with play. There he was interfering with play. So I guess, I don't know, because you're right, he was miles offside. And do you go back to the dead simple law in which you're either offside or you're not, which probably in my view would be a good thing. But the only issue with that is that there were then instances of when people were scoring 40-yard shots, sailing over the goalkeeper's head, and somebody's standing miles offside, nowhere near it, and the goal's disallowed. And it's got nothing to do with the actual quality of the goal. That one yesterday, I could see how you could make the point that that's why it was disallowed, because it put the keeper off. But you're right, VAR takes far, far too long. I mean, there's minutes and minutes being added on, and it comes back to this clear and obvious thing. If it's clear and obvious, you should be able to tell in 30 seconds. If it's not, then go with the referee.
Yeah, I just want to ask you about David Gray. Do you guys think that he's now that they've got 7 to 10 days to think about it, that he's possibly going to get the sack?
Well, Robbie does.
To be honest, for what I read for Hibs fans, they wanted him sacked at half time. So, I mean, I think that tells you where their heads are at. But I think the David Gray issue extends further than David Gray. I think, as Alistair said earlier, it is, a bold issue ultimately. But I think Gray does have to go, and I think he'll look back at that and realise that it was far too early for him to take such a big job like Hibs. I think, like Scott Brown, if he took a lower job in Scotland or done in England, he could have actually done well. But I think he'll look back at this almost like Goodwin looked back at Aberdeen. It was far too early for him to take that type of job. So I think I think he will get sacked.
Yeah. Sorry, Regan.
No, I was just going to say, well, it'll be interesting to see who the Hibs board go for, because they went for a young manager, and the Hibs fans wanted to enamored with a Stephen Robertson or a Derek as well. So it'll be interesting to see who they try and acquire.
I think Robin. Sorry, Robin, you go.
Craig Levine's always available, as Alistair said.
Craig Levine's always available, but I suspect that might be a bridge too far for Hibs. I think Robbie's already mentioned the man who's most likely to be the favourite, and that's Scott Brown, bearing in mind where he started his career. He was obviously talked to by Saints. He was never offered a job, is my understanding. I'm personally quite happy with that. I think we're better with Valakari. I watched Ayr United against Morton the other night, on Friday night. Good enough game. But I don't think... It's really hard for really good players to make good managers. There's not that many great players make great managers. And Scott Brown was a very, very good player. I just don't see that he's actually necessarily making that much a difference. He's made a bit of a difference, But we'll wait and see where they're in the season. But I do think he would almost certainly be the favourite, I think, if Gray goes. But as we've said, the problem, I think, is much, much deeper than that. It goes into actually the control of the club, what's happening there. For once, Radio Scotland had an interesting discussion on this, and they were basically explaining how the different factions are and the infighting there is there. And you can see it again, similar to Rangers. There's problems at the top end of the club, and that's having an impact further down the line.
Sorry, Robbie, Celtic 1-0 up. Celtic 1-0 up. Mr. Adam Ida, who scored bang on half time.
Oh, did he get a touch onto that? It was a very, very good ball for Callum McGregor.
Looks like it. He's running away celebrating here, but it might be Callum McGregor.
It says here the fourth minute of extra time in the first half.
Yeah, it was a very, very good ball for.
It's a great ball.
He's miles onside.
It might be Adam Ida. It's difficult to tell for you. And maybe McGregor himself.
I think it might be, but it does look like he did get a slight nick on it. Either way, I mean, what a ball that is for McGregor.
The BBC are giving it to McGregor.
We'll see on this angle. I think this angle's better. Oh, Ida doesn't even get anywhere near it. That's McGregor's goal. Ida doesn't get anywhere near it. It was a great ball in initially for McGregor, but I don't know.
Let me take a wild guess. Ida claimed he did get a nick on it.
I think so. I think he did, yeah. But I mean, I think he ran away celebrating, but no, that was definitely McGregor's goal. I think one thing, I don't know if Ida was maybe, I know we spoke about it for St Mirren, but I don't know if Ida was maybe in McCrory's way, and that's why he didn't really move, because McCrory just stood completely still by the time the ball fell, near to Ida. So I don't know if maybe had a destructive view, but it was a great goal for McGregor in the end. It was a great ball in initially, but it somehow found its way in the back end of it.
Yeah, Robin, it just shows you that these big moments in matches, and that's the 45 minutes of being going. Celtic 1-0, Robbie at 45 minutes gone. So I think it'll be interesting to see how they react, because I think from a Celtic point of view, I don't think they've really been playing too well, but it just shows you, Robbie, it's important when you're not playing well, it's important that you get something from the game.
Yeah, I mean, both half-time talks completely changed at this point. McKenzie and Rodgers are completely different at this point. And I still don't think Rodgers will be completely happy with the way Celtic have played, and nor should he be. I think it's been a very slow game. Celtic have really struggled to get going, but ultimately they found themselves 1-0 up. I think Kelly will be disappointed. If that game was to finish 1-0 to Celtic, we'll look back at that Watkins chance that hit the post and go, that was a game changer right there, because that could have had Kelly 1-0 up. But again, to give Callum McGregor credit, it was a great goal. I mean, initially it was a great cross, and we seem to be saying it every week, but since he's stopped playing with Scotland, he's really come onto a good form for Celtic. So he's been one of the key men for Celtic. So it was a brilliant half for Kilmarnock, but Celtic somehow found themselves 1-0 up.
Yeah, I just want to now to talk about the Motherwell and St Johnstone match. I know that St Johnstone didn't win yesterday. Alistair, but is a positive there for you?
Yeah, we haven't got Craig Levein as the manager, so that's quite a good start. So you're looking at the difference that Valakari has made. It's quite clear from what I'm hearing from, within the club, that there's a sea change in the attitude of the players. They're much happier. There's a better mood in the place. He's changed the way we play, so we're actually dominating possession against teams. And a friend of mine who was at the business club meeting the other day, he was talking to Valakari, and basically Valakari was saying, look, we know what the problems are. It'll take a bit of time to sort them. So there's a realisation of exactly what the issue is. The defence is not up to it. We've got two young goalkeepers. Craig Levein didn't manage to hire a goalkeeping coach until about the last week he was there. So they've had nobody training them. The previous coach that they could have had, they fell out with, right? Because they wouldn't pay him enough money. And all sorts of problems compounded to make our defence porous. So, are there positives? Yeah, there are positives. We're unlike last season, we're scoring goals. For a couple of minutes at a time, we look like Man City. We've got people who are actually, I think, do put the fear into opposition defenders. And I actually think it's a pity Graham's not on the show today, because I do think Mackenzie Kirk potentially could be quite good. And going back to what Robbie was saying earlier on about youngsters coming through, and I know you posted something, Robbie, about the number of minutes that under-21s are getting, and it's a real shame. And we got off into other territory like league reconstruction. Until we've got a system by which you can play young players, these guys are not going to get a chance. We've got the boy Franjak, who's playing under 18 for Poland. He's our youngest ever player. There's something about him. There's a young guy called Alex Ferguson, which is a good name, who, again, I've talked about on this show. Callum Davidson said to me he is going to be a top player. Now, I was talking to somebody, he's at Stirling Albion just now on loan, and the word coming back from Jimmy Bone is that, yeah, this guy is going to be a top player. So you want to see these people coming in and actually getting a chance to play. The problem is that all you're really trying to do this season, yet again, is stay up. So for at least half the teams in the league, that's their number one priority, probably including St Mirren as well, Robbie, if you don't mind me saying. It's let's get to 10 points minimum every quarter. That should keep us up, and then let's see where we can go after that. It doesn't make for good football. So what he's doing is he's giving us better football to watch, but the defence is still, it makes the part of the Red Sea look like a puddle. It's just ridiculous. So we're actually playing better. Motherwell basically opened us up twice, and that once it was 2-0, that was it. They didn't particularly threaten. Neither goalkeeper really had any saves to make. Ray had one save, but other than that, there wasn't any great saves, in the game at all. You can see Len Miller's a great player. He's going to go for a decent amount of money. Maybe not as much as Tam Cowan thinks, but he's going to go for a decent amount of money. And it was actually a very good game to watch. I was saying to my mates, when it was 0-0, this is a good game. So, yeah, that's a very long-winded answer to you, I'm sorry. But, yeah, there are positives, but we've got to start winning games and stop conceding goals.
No problem, Alistair. I just want to now touch on Motherwell. I don't know where people are talking about, but I think Motherwell started the season very well. Robbie?
Motherwell have had a fantastic start of the season, and again, I can't believe people want Kettlewell gone. It's usually when people make points, I can see both sides of it, but I look at these points about Tony Dockett and Kettlewell, and I go, how do you even start to think that it should be sacked? It's outstanding to me. If you look at the position where Motherwell were in last season at points, and especially after I think it was 15 games where they didn't even get a win, to where they are now, they're absolutely flying. They just had a semi-final. Unfortunately for them, they lost. But it's been a very, very good start of the season for Motherwell. And even if you take a look at the first goal, I know Alistair spoke about Lennon Miller. It all comes for him. He's the one that, it was very lucky for them to be able to build at the back the way they did. It was very close to St Johnson slit him in behind them, but they built it very well, just a long direct ball at the park. And the ball in from Coletta was absolutely amazing, exactly where you want it, and it falls right for, I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name, but it falls right for him. And I think I made the point in the group chat yesterday that, that striker is having a very, very good season so far. He seems to have come onto a game, and, I think when the guys like Coletta and that striker are playing well, it shows that it's not just a Lennon Miller team. There was a lot of questions, is it, like Boyle at Hibs at points, is it just a one-man team? But I think these players are showing that it's more than just Lennon Miller, it's an actual team. And it's weird to me because, obviously Motherwell signed a lot of players during the summer window. Some of these names pop up, like Tom Sparrow. I know he scored. I've never heard of him in my life. Like, some of these names that Motherwell are popping into the squad are mental. Like, usually I'm used to reading a Motherwell team and I know most of the players, but I was reading that team sheet earlier when I watched the highlights and I was like, who even are half of these guys? But again, for Tom Sparrow, it was a great finish on his right foot. He does really well with the ball at his feet initially, and it's a great finish into the bottom left. I know Alistair, you were saying, the goalies didn't make too many saves. I thought Ray made a good save. I think the player was offside when he made it, but it was a good save for him anyway. But I thought Motherwell I thought they probably deserved the win in the end. I thought St Johnstone, like we're going to talk about Ross County, the defending was poor at points. I actually thought, I don't want to go into too much of a rant, but Ross County's defending was absolutely dreadful. I think they've probably got one of the worst defences in the league this year. So I thought, if St Johnstone and Balacari can get the defence sharpened up, there's no reason why you can't stay up. When you look at the teams that are playing bad right now, like your Hibs and Hearts and teams like that, and Ross County, you've got to look at them sort of games and go, we can fancy our chances to stay up here.
Yeah, listen, you don't have to worry about saying anything about our defence, which people weren't saying yesterday at the Saints end. If you look at the second goal, the boy Cameron, who we've got on loan from Notts County, he stands off him. It was a good goal, but he should have closed him down quicker. Barry Douglas has been a great player. He's been brought in. He obviously made his debut, came on against St Mirren, and he was blowing out of the proverbial against Hearts, and the managers kept him on. And we were expecting to be taken off at half-time. And I think the reason he wasn't, I suspect Holt must have been injured because he was taken off at half-time, and I don't think he'd have been taken off otherwise. And they brought Nielsen on, moved him into midfield, but Barry Douglas was getting caught out time and time again. And it's partly lack of communication across the defence. And ironically, going back to your question about Motherwell, they didn't have Liam Gordon yesterday. Now, there is no one better at shouting and organising the defence than Liam Gordon. He absolutely shouts at everybody, even if he's not the captain. He shouts at everybody. And he's totally committed. And we just haven't got that just now.
Yeah, I think that's a good point you make. I just wanted to touch on what Sean Kettle was saying yesterday about the fact that the international break is actually being round at a very good time. I think you can say that for a lot of teams in this Scottish Premier League, Robbie.
Yeah, it's came at a good time for a lot of teams. It's came at a good time for us, especially, with the injury crisis that we're in right now. International breaks are only a positive. Maybe not a positive for the fans, because watching Scotland right now, as I mentioned earlier, is very, very dry right now. But it's always good to get an international break, especially when your team is going through so many injuries. And for Kettlewell, look, I think international breaks can also hurt a lot of teams. We've seen it multiple times a few seasons ago with Rangers, especially the winter international break, how much that actually used to affect them. It can hurt teams, but it can also be a real positive. So I think the international break, especially this one, is coming at the right time for a lot of teams. Alice, I don't know how the international break's feeling for St Johnstone. Are you happy with the international break coming right now?
Well, what the manager's saying is that he basically wants the players to sort of hang on to how bad they felt after the Motherwell game and use that for the next 2 weeks to fire them up. I think we had nobody can talk about not being pronounced his name. The Croatian boy whose first name is Bozo, so he's now been called Bozo by the fans, which is a bit unfortunate. But he is a big unit. He is a big guy. Now, I'm hoping he's actually going to help solidify the defence, but he's not really match fit yet. Neither is Barry Douglas. So you're hoping they'll play some closed doors friendlies and actually get these guys a bit fitter. Also, Raymond, who came back on, was playing a bit further up the park, who is actually probably better up the park. He's just got, we actually, it's come the right time for us as well. I think I'd say that. Probably the teams it's not coming for at the right time is Aberdeen, I think, because they, having just got back on the rails, would like to have sustained that. And obviously, their next game, we've talked about this already. There's some interesting games coming up after the international break, which will be, I think, significant for some of the teams involved. So, yeah, I think for most clubs, the international break is probably coming at the right time.
Yep. I now just want to go on to this match that's going to be on at 5 p.m. What's your thoughts on Rangers against Hearts?
I would have loved to have had Graham on this show because he would have had some very interesting comments about this game. It's a real tough one to call. Look, Hearts, under Crouchley, I think Graham's been saying, they've improved. They're definitely improved side to where they were under Naismith, but they're still nowhere near the finished product. And I actually thought in the game on Thursday. They gave it a real good go against a Heidenheim team that are very, very good in the league that they're in. So I think they probably found it unfortunate not to take anything away for the game, especially with the chances that they missed. I think Shankland had a big one just 2 minutes in. So I think Hearts will probably feel hard done by in that game. But you're going away to an Ibrox where I've managed to watch Rangers the last few weeks, especially at home, and they just don't look, if a team can go there and show a lot of confidence and play the football they know they can play, there's no reason why they can't take points off of Rangers. When we went there, I think we were unlucky not to take anything. Hibs, even going back further, I thought Hibs were unlucky not to take anything. And I thought, although they probably deserved to win against Motherwell in the Cup, I still don't think Rangers were anywhere near that best. So if Hearts can take confidence, and I'm sure Craigs will try and get players firing, there's a real threat that Rangers could drop more points. But again, it seems to be every week we're having this discussion about Shankland, and again, he's not hitting the heights and he's not scoring the goals that we expect him to score. So I think Shankland still will play, and I'm sure you would agree that there's not really any other option. So for Hearts, they sort of need to stick by Shankland right now, and I think if they stick by Shankland, these goals will come, but I just don't see it being this weekend. So it's a tough one to predict. I said this weekend, like the game's not another way, but I think come the game, it'll be big to see how Shankland plays.
Alice, I was going to ask you, see, in terms of Shankland, what do you think the problem has been? I think it's just that he's just over a very good season, or do you think he's been playing the wrong position, or the confidence? What do you think it is?
I don't think he's been playing in the wrong position. I'm quite sure confidence is a huge issue, because if you're a striker and you stop scoring, then you can see it. We've all seen strikers who get into that position and their confidence goes. You were mentioned Theo Bair very briefly. I mean, he scored 1 goal for us and he was desperately trying to score, but his confidence was shot. There's an interesting article in the Sunday Times today by Michael Grant about Shankland, and he basically makes the point that Shankland isn't particularly mobile and isn't particularly quick, which is actually true, I think, to be fair. I'm not saying he's slow and he's not mobile, but he's not lightning fast, and he's not a sort of striker who you just give him half a yard and he's there behind you. But he had a brilliant season last season. He scored 1 goal this season. And anyway, Michael Grant's article was basically saying, should Hearts drop him? It would be a very, very brave decision to do that. But if he's not scoring goals, you think about it, you've got strikers in most teams who go through blank patches, and sometimes they do need to be rested. So the game itself, I would kind of expect Rangers to win because they're at home. But I watched the very first game of the season at Tynecastle, and Hearts certainly deserved the point and played really well. And at that time, I think as prophesied by me, that was, Hearts were going to be third in the league, which is the second worst prophecy in football this season after the boy on TalkSport who said he thought that Jimmy Tillman wouldn't do very well at Liverpool. So, if Gray was here, it would be interesting to see what he said. But if they lose today, Hearts, they've got Celtic next, I think. They've got Celtic and Aberdeen coming up.
Celtic next. Celtic, then Aberdeen.
Right. So that's 2 games where they're thinking. Ironically, they might be thinking today's the easiest of the 3 of the games. Going to Rangers at Ibrox is the easiest of the next 3 games they've got. That kind of tells you something about A, where Rangers are, and B, where Hearts are. I still don't think Hearts have got too many good players. I think Hibs are more likely to possibly struggle unless they get a new manager and they get a bit of a bounce. But today's game, I don't think it's going to be that. It's going to be tight, but it's not going to be that exciting. And I think Rangers will win by the odd goal. That's my guess.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask you, Robbie. But there's obviously been a change at Rugby Park. Have you got a change there?
Yeah, is it Patel that's went off for Ennis Cameron?
Yeah, it is. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know too much about that Cameron.
I think that's a bit of a strange move, Robbie, because I think that the striker that they brought off there, I mean, he seems to always be in the kind of physical battle and try and win throw-ins. So I think that's a kind of strange move from Derek. For me.
Yeah, I mean, Vazel's a big physical striker like Shankland. You know, he's not fast at all, but what he does do is he can hold up the ball incredibly well and get Kelly out of the park. So it'll be interesting to see if that all works out. But I just actually wanted to ask you guys a question about Shankland. And, you know, we spoke about international break potentially helping teams. Do you think this could help Shankland? Because I'm led to believe he is in the Scotland squad again.
He is, yeah, he is.
I mean, if Clark can get him game time, you know, one goal could really change the season. Do you think that this international break, you know, playing under a different team can maybe help Shankland?
The only thing I would play devil's advocate to your question, Robert, and I do agree with it. But even when Shankland was scoring 30 odd goals last year, he didn't get a chance. So don't think he's got much of a chance when he scored 0.
I agree with you, I must admit. I mean, he was scoring a bar load of goals, he still wasn't getting chosen. And I think a lot of Scotland fans, including myself, wondered why, because the other guys weren't scoring for Scotland either. So, you know, give him a...
Sorry, guys, just a massive chance here at Rugby Park, Robbie. A big save from Schmeichel. That should have been another big chance for Command to score there, Robbie.
Yeah, that was a brilliant chance. It's a great ball whipped in. It's from the back post. Is that Armstrong number 8?
No, it's Donnelly, I think.
Donnelly, it falls to Donnelly right in the back post. I don't even know where. I think it's Taylor playing left back or Valley, one of them. I don't even know where he is today. It was nowhere to be seen. It just falls to him and cuts in his left foot, and it's another good save for Schmeichel. And you know, Schmeichel a few weeks ago, I remember a lot of Celtic fans, and especially a few of my friends, were doubting, you know, is Schmeichel still as good as he once was? I think in these type of games, it proves he is. You know, he's made a couple of decent saves this game, and I think he made one right at the start of the second half as well. So he's a very, very good goalkeeper still, and he's just saved Celtic there for, you know, a killer equaliser.
Do you boys remember Schmeichel playing for Falkirk when he was a young lad?
A little bit.
Robbie's
not at all. No, not at all. I didn't know he played for Falkirk, but no, I don't ever remember seeing him.
I remember him being quite good. Well, obviously he's quite good, you know, but I mean, and he's gone on to have a really fabulous career. And, you know, I watched him playing for Denmark the other day, and he was, again, very, very good. And, you know, I obviously can't see the game because you guys are watching it. I'm just watching it on the BBC stream. It says that the boy Lion should have cut it back, and if he cut it back, Watson would have scored. But obviously I haven't seen that.
I'll need to wait and see the replay, but I think the Lions, if that's what it was, should have probably done better with the chance. Right. I think it probably directly right at Schmeichel rather than, you know, trying to get into either corner. So I think he probably could have done a bit better with the chance.
Well, it says sorry, Ryan.
Possible. It was just almost another chance for Kamala right here, but no.
No, I was going to say, it says in the BBC it's Lions, which probably means it's Matty Kennedy or somebody.
Yeah, I mean, with that chance there, but Reagan was talking about Scales again. It's really poor defending, and he almost.
Scales has been really bad, hasn't he? I think he's caused his own problems.
Yeah, but it wouldn't surprise me if Rodgers took him off, to be honest with you. He's having a really poor game. Celtic pretty quick up the park, but couldn't get it there and wait. But Schmeichel Scales, sorry. Has been really, really poor today. He's almost, as you said, you know, if we watch it again there, it doesn't even know where the ball is half the time, but
yeah,
he's had a really poor game.
Pat Nevin on the BBC is asking a rhetorical, it's a question, it's not a rhetorical question. Do you know any goalkeepers who make so many saves with their feet as Schmeichel does?
No, not probably that. Yeah, because he was one that always seemed to favour saving with his feet rather than saving with his hands. Oh, almost a chance for Celtic, but Nick Walsh is blew for a free kick. So
that's another thing that annoys me. I don't know, you know, I don't know specifically what the rule is, but it's always been an issue for me that I feel like goalkeepers are sometimes really overprotected, especially when they're going out for crosses.
Yeah, it's strange.
I feel like McCrory barely even takes any contact there, and yet, you know, it feels like he's got the fill for that. It just feels like goalkeepers are sometimes very, very overprotected in football.
There's nothing specific in the laws about goalkeepers. It's a foul is a foul, and obviously the difference is that they're going up with their hands in the air. But in theory, if it's two defenders going for the ball and one of them fouls in the air or elbows or pushes or whatever else, it's a foul. But you're right, there is a perception that goalkeepers get away with murder. Mainly, it must be said, propagated by Ali McCoist on TalkSport and Alan Brazil on TalkSport. But they kind of have a point. But then again, in the old days, you get goalkeepers who absolutely would take out the forwards, and in a way you can't get away with nowadays. Goalkeeper would come out, they'd clear everything out of the way, including their own defenders. And if the forward happened to get his head punched off, that was just tough.
And now I just want to move on to a little bit about Jim. Obviously, I think he's done a great job at Dundee United, Jim. And I want to speak about the fact that he got a brand new contract, Robbie, because I think that's so important because I know people, some people might disagree, but I think it was pretty difficult for him to come back after his short spell at Aberdeen, but he's done very well.
Aye, Goodwin's done very well, and as I always say, I'll always miss him not being Sunderland manager anymore. But I mean, what I'm led to believe is, we did offer him a contract at the time before he took the Aberdeen job, and unfortunately turned it down. I wonder, it's all if buts and maybes, but I just wonder if, he looked back at how Aberdeen went, if he maybe would have took it at the time. We'll never know, but I think that shows a real sense of security for Dundee United that, they have that manager that's willing to commit long term to the club. And again, it's another good win for them yesterday, and I think Goodwin is doing a very, very good job with Dundee United. But a lot of people wrote him off at Aberdeen, saying, could they come back into Scotland and do a good job? Well, they should answer because, like Scott Brown, if you go down and take a team that's, struggling a bit and you can try and get them back up, and I think Goodwin's done that really well with Dundee United. So I think he's well deserving of a new contract. And although a lot of Dundee United fans were probably writing him off when he first got the job, I think they're probably, that's, as we keep saying, that's probably the best option, to be honest, for now. I don't think you're going to get any better than Jim Goodwin, especially for the long term, unless, Dundee United fans have a bit of Craig Levine, who knows. But no, I think that's good for Goodwin to sign a new contract.
Yeah. I just quickly want to go on to ask Alistair a question about the Scottish supporters. Alistair, we're now 3 days away or 4 days away until the Scotland players meet up for the next international match, and we still don't know if the match is going to be live on telly or stuff like that. And I think it's now getting a bit beyond a joke.
Yeah, with my SFSA hat on, as you know, there's been a campaign for some time to go and get Scotland games free to air. The annoyance is that it is up to the football authorities here. It's their decision. They can choose to try and take the money from a contract with somebody else, which is what they've done, which is, they're right, because their job is to get as much money into Scottish football because we haven't got a lot. So I have sympathy from that point of view. On the other hand, the counter argument, which I would lean towards, is that if you've got Scotland games on the telly, you're getting kids watching it, you're obviously getting people at the games, but you're getting the opportunity for people across the whole country to watch it, hopefully to be enthused, and to be more likely to want to go and play football, because there's huge amounts of competition nowadays for kids. When I was young, which is a long time before you guys were, there was nothing else to do, until you could go and drink illegally, So from that point of view, that's what you did. You played football all the time. There was football all over the place. You never saw it on the telly. So when you did, it was a really big deal. And having the national team on, we did the Home International Championships in those days. And I can remember when I was at university, the Home International Championships, people were queuing up with their carryouts about 3 hours beforehand just to get in the TV room, because otherwise you couldn't get a seat. And that's the kind of impact which the Scotland team can have on the population. So I would like them to find a way. The English obviously do it. We can see the English games up here. It comes down to money. It all comes down to money. It always has done. I have sympathy with the football authorities because I know there's the need for the money, but I would love them to find some kind of way of actually making this free to air. And I don't think there'll be any Scottish fans who would disagree with that.
To add on another point, and I found that when the games were on YouTube, that it's fine for me. I know how to boot up YouTube and find the streams all right, but there is an older generation that some can struggle doing that type of thing. A lot of people don't know how to use YouTube or social media in general, so that there is a large group that still want to watch Scotland and stuff that maybe don't know how to operate that sort of social media streaming service. So I think people need to factor in that as well.
Why are you looking at me?
I'm not looking at it.
No, I do know. I mean, we're living out doing this kind of stuff, so I ought to know. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. There's an awful lot of people. You think nowadays everybody knows how to do these things, and they don't. I was helping a not old but not elderly lady who lives in Galston, who I know. Could I help her sync her iPad with her computer because she didn't know how to do it? Because she's going to Australia and she wanted to know how she could actually find documents on it. So I pointed out she could do. She pays for about 3 different cloud. She uses Google and she uses iCloud. And I said, look, it's all there, but she just doesn't understand this stuff. So you're right, Robbie. There's a significant percentage of people who would like to see the games and they're much happier seeing them on terrestrial TV. Because then it is free to air. That's the whole point. The campaign is we want these to be free to air, not behind a paywall. YouTube is better than nothing. You can always go to a pub, unless you're housebound or something, So there's ways to do it, but I can't see it changing any day soon because the contracts are in place,
Yeah, but it's also for Robbie. I feel like it's also about trying to get the next generation of Scotland fans to be enjoyed. And if we're putting the matches on somewhere that's not accessible to everybody, then we possibly could be locking out people to watch the Scotland matches.
Yeah, I mean, Alistair touched on it as well. Like growing up, it was always, if Scotland's on the TV, it's brilliant. It rarely ever happened, and I always remember a few times coming home from school and actually ever being lucky enough to find a stream on, a random website on YouTube, if it's even on there. So most of the time it wasn't. You just had to look on your phone and wait on the result. But having the last few years, actually having Scotland, not even just on free TV, but if it is on Premier Sports, as it was known as, it was always good to be able to sit and watch it. But now it's not even on that most of the time. And what is the actual TV contract like? Who, is it them that sort of gets first take on the Scotland game? Or
Well, I think Viaplay have got it, but
Yeah.
Viaplay are stopping the rights to the UK and to Europe, so I think that's why they're putting all the games on YouTube.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly what it is. I mean, and I think this is where there is an opportunity for the SFA to get involved, because if that is coming to an end, then how do we renegotiate? Do we renegotiate a new contract with somebody else? Well, to be fair, there's more money coming into Scotland. Okay, you might disagree about it's coming through gambling companies, etc., but the money is coming into the game, and I don't blame them for taking it from perfectly legal markets. But I think the point you made, Robbie, I think people forget. I mean, you were talking about when you were at school and get it on the internet. I mean, I remember, this is before you guys were born, the World Cup in Argentina, and I went down to Edinburgh. It was a very good friend of mine. Guy was actually my best man, as it happened, and or he turned out to be my best man later on. Went down to Edinburgh, stayed in his flat, and we were walking through Edinburgh to go to his girlfriend's house to watch on the telly, because hardly anybody had tellies in those days. Students couldn't afford tellies, but her flat had a telly. And we're walking through the streets of Edinburgh. I remember we stopped and I carry out cans of Guinness with a special Guinness mug with the 1978 World Cup logo on it, which I've still got. The logo's worn off. There was not a soul in the streets. Everybody was trying to find a place to watch the game. It was that big a deal. Okay, we got absolutely hammered by Peru, but that's another story. Yeah. But the actual excitement around it was amazing, and you kind of lose that at your peril. So if people aren't watching Scotland games, they'll go and watch someone else. They'll go and watch England. If they want to watch football, maybe not. Some people might not, but you know what I mean. They'll find other things to do, and then you're losing all that next generation coming up. It's not as bad as that, but when there's so many other distractions for people to do, things people can do, it's important that you can see the national team on the telly free of charge.
I mean, you just need to look at when we qualify, for the first Euros in years, and that game being on, I believe that game was on free TV. I can't quite remember. I feel like it was at the time. No, I'm sure it definitely wasn't free TV as far as I'm aware. Just looking at that moment when the Mitrovic the penalty saved, how together the whole country was from that moment right up until when the Euros happened.
It was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. I don't know if you've seen a stat on here, Robbie. Like Commander given 14 shots, Celtic about 5 shots. What a stat that is.
Yeah, I mean, when we spoke about, after the first half about Kilmarnock playing well.
They've been absolutely brilliant. They're really brilliant.
I mean, if you go at these teams, you will get chances, and I'm seeing here Ida and Engels is off for Kyogo and Bernardo. Rodgers knows it most likely needs another goal here to wrap this game up, because if Kilmarnock keep creating these big chances, they will score eventually.
Well, Kilmarnock have been, I think they've been absolutely brilliant. They've took the match to Celtic. I think you could arguably say Kilmarnock have had the best chances in the match.
Yeah, and I always say when you're watching these teams taking on Rangers or Celtic, and I say it with my own team as well, if you can go at these teams, with confidence and get in their faces, you can get results, because at the end of the day, a lot of the teams you feel in the league just sit back, and it was more common when you had the likes of the Livingstons and Hamiltons in the league. They'd sit back against them and try and play for 0-0 all the time. But now we're actually starting to see a refresh, league where teams are, not, I don't want to say not scared, because we know how good Celtic are.
Well, I don't know what Scales has just done there. He's just sold himself there, and he's almost let the player actually get an open goal there. Oh, another good chance for Kilmarnock. Absolutely pound of pressure on you.
This is going to end up 2-0 Celtic, isn't it? You can just see either that or Kilmarnock get an equaliser, which, I mean, again, just looking at the stuff that's coming through from the BBC online, Pat Nevins obviously doing some of the commentary, and he's saying second half's better than the first half, just a really, really good game of football. And that's what you want.
Yeah. It's been a great advert, Robbie, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been a very, very good game of football, and I think Scales is trying to prove me wrong, because earlier I did say that, I actually think he's been all right this season, but he is having a disaster there again right now. It would not surprise me if he gets taken off the park, to be honest. That's how bad it's been. I mean, he is destined to make it level himself for Kilmarnock, so it's been a very, very good game of football. It won't surprise me when Kilmarnock's scoring again. It goes back to that point. If you look at what's just happening here, Kilmarnock are moving the ball a bit really, really well, and if teams start doing that more against, Celtic and Rangers, they will get results, because it can happen.
Oh, what a save! What a save! That should be 1-1 there. It's a great move.
Great save.
To Kilmarnock again. For Matty Kennedy. And what a save.
That's exactly what I just talked about. They played the ball out for the back, played it forward, no direct long balls. And they find space in the Celtic box, and it's another very, very good save for Schmeichel.
So it's great to have Graham on the board. It's great to have you, Graham.
All right, guys, I thought I'd pop on for the last half hour. I was almost meant to host the show, but I had a headache, so a few paracetamols and better than it was.
Is that in preparation for the game tonight?
I'm not even confident. Like, I can't sit here and say I'm confident, because I reckon that Ibrox is so bad. I've seen a few Hearts fans saying that, we've got a chance today. I've heard that numerous times, they get hammered. So yeah, I'm not overly confident. I'm going to have to admit that.
We've all just said you think we've got a good chance.
I mean, I think we are playing better football. The performance on the pitch have been better, and I can definitely see an identity. But I reckon that Ibrox is just so poor, and I just don't fancy us to win, if I'm going to be brutally honest.
I mean, Graham, to ask you, I mean, we spoke about it in depth a bit ago, but Shankland, obviously, it's the big key topic right now with Hearts. He's not himself that he was last season. I mean, How big? You know, I've not seen the team sheets. I don't know where he's starting today. I assume he is. Yeah. I mean, you know, would Crouchley ever consider dropping?
I don't think he would. I think his overall game's actually been all right. I know he's judged on goals, and after what he did last season, the season before, he's miles off form in that role. But his overall game's actually been all right. I thought he was good on Thursday. He should have scored the chance he had last season. He buries that, but I don't see Critchley taking him out now. He's brought Kenny Vargas in today, so he's basically playing a front two, which I don't mind. I'm happy enough with, but he needs something to go in for him because his only goal this season was against Ross County. And I thought when he scored that goal, he'd go on a run, but it's just not happened. He needs something to go in for him. Now, I don't think he'll get many chances today, but if he does get a chance, he has to take it.
Yeah, this is kind of where you got the journalists, the absolute classic line, he just needs it going off his backside, you know, which they all come out with.
Exactly.
But it's true. It's the confidence thing with strikers. We were talking about that before. I mean, would you have been surprised if he was dropped, Graham, or not? Not really.
Probably not. But the issue that I would have is we've got no other option, which is why I've said previously I don't understand why Naismith didn't bring another striker in the summer. That was a bad decision for me because if you look at things that could happen, loss of form, getting sold, injury, you got to look at all those. Now, at the moment, he's on a loss of form and we had nobody else to step in. You got Kenny Vargas, who's not really a natural striker. James Wilson's a 17-year-old laddie. He was never going to start today. And Liam Bosch is really down the pecking order. So you've only got Shankland. And that was always going to be an issue for me. And it's proved the case. You know, Shankland's not scoring. Where's other strikers coming from? It's a difficult one, but he needs something to go for him today. I don't think he'll get many chances at Ibrox, but if he does, he has to be clinical, which he's not been this season.
Yeah. Well, you see that with Kilmarnock. They've had chances, obviously, but not taken them. And you have to take your, and this is another cliche, but if you don't take your chances at Ibrox and Parkhead, then you're not going to win. You're not going to get anything, never mind win.
Yeah. Obviously, I was meant to be hosting today, and I had a few things I wanted to talk about. I don't know if you've talked about this before, but I want to bring this up because it was on my list to do. So on the 20th of November, we're going to have the guys from Behind the Whistles podcast on to talk about our favourite subject, VAR. Now, the reason I was going to bring that up today was because on Friday, the independent review panel, what a waste of time they are, said that the Hibs Dundee United game, United should never have got a penalty. Now, I agree with that, but where my issue is, and I'm going to come to Alistair on this one first, because I know that he's not a fan of VAR. My issue about this whole VAR thing is VAR officials get involved when they don't need to get involved. So that United game last week, the VAR officials got no need to get involved there. You go back to the St Johnstone Hearts game last week. Now, I messaged the guys from the podcast about this. They were very good, got back to me, really good feedback. But what they said was, and I agreed with it, not one St Johnstone player claimed for a penalty. Not even Cameron, who was brought down. So my whole issue with VAR is the fact that I think it's getting involved when it doesn't need to. And again, we go back to what we mentioned when we had the guys on the last time. Games are getting re-refereed. And this is where the issue lies with me. There was no need for VAR to get involved in that game last week, and they did. And they were wrong, because it's been proved.
Yeah, we have talked about it a little bit. I'm sure you wouldn't be surprised to find out. My problem with VAR is much more fundamental. We had a situation yesterday in the 90th minute where we scored what we thought was the equaliser. So you are out of your seat and you think we've got a point here, and then it's taken away from you. Now, fair play to the manager. He said, "Look, it was a handball. You know, VAR was right." But the penalty we got yesterday, there was a claim or two for it, but not many. And I think you're absolutely right. One of the problems with VAR is that people are re-refereeing games. So you've got Greg Aitken who's doing it because he's not fit enough to be a referee now. So fair play, they're looking after one of their own. And you kind of feel he just wants something to do. Or, you know, they've got this new guy in as well. Why can they not just go, right, okay, that's not clear and obvious. The referee's call, just get on with it. Because another thing about our game yesterday, the referee only booked one player. And I thought that was brilliant. It wasn't a dirty game. In fact, there were some fouls where people were taken out. There was no...
Celtic go 2-0 up. Celtic go 2-0 up at Rugby Park. It's a massive goal because Celtic have been under their cause this full game. But Brendan Rodgers' side looked to be getting the 3 points with 15 minutes to go.
I actually heard before I came on. I actually heard Alistair say this has got 2-0 Celtic written over it, and that's what's happened.
Yeah, I just thought that. I mean, again, it's great work for Nicola Kuhn down the right hand side. I mean, he just seems to be getting better week by week, and it's a really tidy finish past McGraw. It's really simple football. Really, it's just a Johnston over the top ball, and Kuhn just showing his quality. Really, really good.
Yeah, and for me, also that's why Celtic will be champions, because Celtic can do the pressure and they can put you under pressure, but see when they're under pressure, they somehow seem to get by it, and that's the big difference between them and Rangers. Is that Celtic are able to get by these moments with big saves from Sprinkle, but that for me that just shows me why Celtic will be champions at the end of May.
Yeah, they'll be champions at the end of May because, well, if you're cynical, you'll say it's because they've got more money than anybody else, which is A, cynical, and B, true. But because of that, they've got better players. It really is the team that wins the championship usually has the best players. So I don't think there's any doubt Celtic win the league. Going back to your VAR thing though, Graham, as I said, there's a number of issues with it, but the question I would keep coming back to is this: do you actually think, of all the people, all your mates that you go to football with, if we had a proper survey of everybody in Scottish football, and the SFSA has done some, and they show what I think we expect, the vast majority do not want it. They'd rather go back to accepting the mistakes and having the ability to get to their feet and celebrate a goal and not have to worry about whether in fact it's going to be chalked off, or whether in fact, as you say, there's a piece of play and all of a sudden the game stopped and you have no idea why. And then you wait 5 minutes to find out why.
Yeah, I actually said this a couple of mates yesterday. I said that if you took a vote now and you had, it's like family fortunes, if you asked 100 folk, if you surveyed 100 folk to say, would you scrap VAR? I think most folk would probably say yes. But it is the re-referee games. It's like nowadays you go to a game and you can't really celebrate. Hibs game yesterday, they think they've got back to 2-2. Same as St Johnstone, I suppose. But then the thing is, it was clearly Gale was offside, but that took more than a minute to decide that was offside. You can clearly see it was offside miles away. But I just think too many times officials get involved when they don't really need to. And that's what I've got the issue with. And we keep going back to the thing that I mentioned where we had the guys on before. That word clear and obvious. I think that's not getting used properly either. Clear and obvious should be, if the referee has made a clear and obvious mistake, then you call him to the monitor. But I don't think that's happening this season. I think they're getting called to the monitor for stuff that is not clear and obvious. And again, the one thing I've noticed as well a couple of times this season, when the referee's gone to the monitor and he's looked at it, it almost feels like he's thinking, I don't want to change my mind, but the VAR guy's making me do it. And that is another thing that I don't like either. It feels like referees on the park are under pressure to change their mind because of the guy on VAR. And I don't like that either.
There's absolutely no doubt that's the case, because all the stats show that when they go to the monitor, I can't remember the percentage, but I think it's in the 90% plus range, they go with whatever VAR suggested. It's very, very rare you see a referee sticking with his original decision. I think I've seen it once that I can remember. The fact they disallowed a goal for us is neither here nor there, but that's maybe why I remember it. If the guys from are coming on again, I think that's really good, because they are really interesting to hear their take on these things. And I know if you look at them on Twitter, obviously they get huge amounts of questions all the time, and they're very, very good the way they deal with it. And they obviously hack off people because they say things which contradicts what the fans are hoping to hear, don't get me wrong, I went and watched the football last night desperately hoping to be proved that actually Sanders had somehow or other not handled the ball. And then I watched Graham Carey on the Saints Facebook page saying, well, actually admitted he handled it. So, it still ruins the game. Otherwise, you might as well make it a computer game. You've heard my arguments about it long enough, but you talked about people doing it. I mean, the last survey we did at the SFSA, after the Swedish referees said they weren't going to, they wouldn't have VAR, 80+%, I think, said, time to get rid of it.
Yeah, I mean, Robert, you must have been obviously delighted with yesterday, but in that last minute when Hibs are equalising, you must be thinking, oh no, here we go again.
I think I said it earlier in the show that I genuinely just wasn't surprised. it was that type of game where I knew as soon as they get the penalty, pressure was going to be on us, and we never tend to handle pressure well. But I think, Graham, you mentioned it. It took, I think it was about 2 minutes and 15 seconds VAR to check that, and I actually thought, Alistair was saying earlier, it could have been because if he was in, obstructing the goalkeeper's view. And even at that, I still can't believe how long it took to even check that. It was it was a really obvious decision to make, and I can't believe how long it took. So with VAR and things like that, I think I agree with most of you guys that I do want it scrapped. And a point I was going to make is you only need to watch other leagues in this country and in England, like in the Championship and stuff, to realise how good the game actually is without VAR. It is so much better and so refreshing to watch, a Championship game here or down in League 1, League 2 down in England to see how good, football is without VAR. So I completely agree. I think it probably should be scrapped, to be honest.
Well, Robbie, on that subject, we did, the SFSU did a survey of lower division fans, and one of the questions we asked was, would it put you off being promoted? And it did. People actually much prefer watching games without VAR.
Yeah, to be honest, that doesn't surprise me. I prefer watching games without VAR, and I watch it on weekly, who always seem to have VAR decisions go all them against them. So I completely agree with that. I mean, I'm sure fans would take promotion if it meant, using VAR for a season. But even with that, I mean, just watching a league with VAR, it is so refreshing to watch.
Yeah. It's well, my views are well known. Let's put it like that. So, anyway, you've missed all the discussion about Hibs.
Reagan. I honestly, I expected by today at some point David Grady was sacked. 1 win in 12. It's not a great run, and I think I mentioned this weeks and weeks ago. The problem is with Hibs that there's a lot of people on the backroom staff that didn't want David Gray as manager, and it's never good when you've got that division in the boardroom. Some people wanted him, some folk didn't, and it's proven that case. I don't think he'll last a lot longer. After the break I think they've got Dundee away. If they lose that, I think he's gone.
But I was saying to the guys earlier, Graham, who is there that they're going to go and get?
They'll give it to Malky Mackay. That'll be what they'll do. They'll give it to Malky Mackay.
My suggestion was Scott Brown, Graham, ex-Hibby.
Yeah, maybe not a bad shout. I mean, he might want to try and get Ayr up, through the playoff, but I wouldn't be surprised. I've seen a few folks saying Neil Lennon. Would he really go back to that again? I don't think so. I can genuinely see Malky Mackay getting it.
Do you think Roy Keane would take it?
No chance.
No chance. Absolutely no chance. I'm just looking at the Rangers team sheet. Now, we spoke to Josh on Thursday after the Rangers game, and we did say, or I did ask him about James Tavernier, and he is actually back in the Rangers starting 11 today. Maybe not a surprise, but I just think, I said this to Josh as well, I think some of the stick that Tavernier gets is uncalled for. I know he's a captain, I know that he's not won a lot of trophies, but it's not all on him. There's other players in that team, but he seems to get a lot of the stick, and I don't get the criticism he gets.
It's because he's the man with the armband, but yeah, I totally get what you mean, Graham. See the amount of stuff that he's done for Rangers has been brilliant. All the European games, the Scottish records he's broke, he's been good. But I think it all comes down to that he's only won that one title in 10 seasons.
I think if you were to ask a lot of Rangers fans, their opinions on Tav, I think the argument would be that, a lot of Rangers fans feel like he's been at Rangers long enough now that, last summer was probably the time for him to move on and try and get another right back in, so I mean, I get that point where Graham said, I think Tavernier does get a lot of stick, some of it really undeservingly.
Sorry guys, they're checking the VR for a possible red card on Rio Atai.
Well, this will cause some controversy again. I've actually never seen it, but I think Tavernier, he gets a lot of undeserved stick. I think
VR said no.
Oh, there would be an argument to be made. His studs are very, very high up when he goes into the challenge. I think that'll be another one to debate, to be honest with you, in the next show, because Hatate, he's basically kicked his knee, pretty much.
I don't know if you've seen that, Graham, but VAR checked for a possible red by Rio, and they said no.
I haven't seen it. I'll watch it later.
Pat Nevin on the BBC has said that he's seen those given as red.
I thought it was a nailed on red card, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I thought it was an red.
Doubtless the VAR review panel will get it right in about a month's time.
I mean, that the one thing that I think I said this well at the time, that I do kind of like the fact that Willie Collum does come out, and if things are wrong, he does call it. But I keep going back to the fact that I can understand the referee on a park getting something wrong because the pace of the game. I get that, but I cannot understand the guy on VAR still getting things wrong when you've got a screen there. I never understand that, how you can get these kind of things wrong. But if you look at the English Premiership, they've had VAR a lot longer than we have, and they still get things wrong. I look at the games yesterday. You look at the Wolves game against Brentford. Southampton, sorry. Southampton should have had a goal. It got disallowed. The free kick went the other way. And then the second goal Wolves score, there's 2 fouls on a Southampton player, doesn't get given. They're still getting things wrong in the English Premiership. They've had a lot longer than we have. You can't get these things wrong. You know, you're going to cost teams money in terms of relegation, you know, trying to win the league title and stuff. You can't get these decisions wrong when you've got a screen there. I didn't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, just quickly go back to Tavernier, and I think he gets a lot of undeserving hate, but again, I make the point that, you know, a lot of Rangers fans believe that, you know, if Boy should have been gone last summer, and that was, you know, the time to move him on and sort of start fresh in that position. So, I mean, that's probably, I think, most Rangers fans' argument to that, the sort of hate that Tavernier gets.
I think when you've got a guy who scored as many goals as he has, never mind given his position, he deserves a little bit more respect than he gets. But I know what you mean. Fans are fickle even when it comes to their own team. We were talking earlier on, obviously, about them turning on managers like Kettlewell. And how can you do this? You know, it just doesn't make sense. But we do.
Yeah, Stephen put that in the group chat yesterday about Motherwell fans not happy. It's like, how can you not be happy? You're sitting 5th in the league. You've won yesterday. You were in a cup semi-final. I mean, what does some of these fans want?
Yeah,
find it mental.
It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. I mean, Motherwell are sitting 4th in the table, Graham. The level in points with Rangers, level in points with, I think it's just St Mirren. So I just don't understand what their problem is. They're sitting very well on the table and they're doing the best they could possibly hope for.
I would say as well, I was going to mention this as well when I was going to be hosting, but I actually think if I look at St Johnstone, and I was going to mention this to Alistair earlier, I know that obviously it's now 3 games without a win, but under Valakari, I can definitely see more identity and there is a more of attacking style. But defensively, that's not been great. You know, I think they're losing far too many goals. I know you've got Piazza to come back at some point up front as well, but you are looking far more positive going forward, which, I mean, listen, it's not going to be difficult when you're under Craig Levein for a long time, but you certainly do look a lot more aggressive and there's a lot more intensity to your play, which wasn't there before.
No, you're absolutely right. And you know, Robbie and I met up before the St Mirren game and we passed the ball like Man City for the first half. We really did. We're actually now dominating possession in games. We had 66% possession yesterday. That doesn't matter. We were talking about this after the game, you know. Doesn't matter. All that matters is the number of goals you've scored, number you conceded, and you've hit the nail on the head. And when I sent a message to Stephen during the game, you know, we can't defend. We can't defend. If he sorts that out, I think we'll be all right. But Levein's legacy, again, we've talked about this earlier on, is horrific. He's brought in defenders who are simply not good enough. He's got 2 young goalkeepers. He never brought an experienced one. He never got a goalkeeping coach until about the week before he got fired. So it's hardly surprising, but that doesn't alter the fact that we're still where we are in the league. And you're looking at teams which you don't expect to be there, like Hearts and Hibs, who are actually keeping us from being bottom.
Yeah, I mean, I generally just think, I mean, obviously watching the game last week against St Johnstone, I thought St Johnstone played well for a lot of the game. Had a few chances. I thought your front 2 caused us problems. I knew you would. Graham Carey's obviously back, who's a really big threat. There is no doubt that under Valakari, I think you are getting better. But come January, I don't know how much you'll have to spend in the market, but come January, it's important you get defenders in because you just don't defend well enough. And it's not that teams are cutting you open. It's mistakes that are costing you.
Yeah, well, I think the boy Cameron can go back to Notts County with everybody, like, thanks very much, cheers. He's got the big boy Bozo in from whoever it is, his creation. We'll see how he does. We obviously lost McClellan to a season-long injury, but my understanding is there is some money because the new owners obviously got money. So I think they will actually spend a bit there. We were talking about St Mirren before, and I've made the point on this show several times. St Mirren are actually currently the new St Johnstone as we were in the last 10 years or so. We were in a position by which we were getting top six more often than not. We were qualifying for Europe. We won some stuff. And St Mirren are now actually in that position themselves, which is great for Robbie, And that's as good, I think, as most fans of clubs like ours can actually hope for.
Reagan, can't be a long way from the Celtic game now, is there?
No, there's about three minutes to go, Graham. Well, I think Derek McInnes, I think he'll be pretty happy because what they've actually done is that they've actually played very well. I think it's just all about Celtic being taking their chances when they've been presented to them. But I think as an opposition team against Celtic, I don't think you can ask for much more. I mean, they've been absolutely brilliant. They've been so great to watch, but I just feel like Celtic have just shown that's why they're going to be champions at the end of May.
Yeah, this is the thing, Robbie. When you come out against Celtic or Rangers, you can play really well, like Kilmarnock today, but if you don't take your chances, you're not going to win games. It's simple as that.
Yeah, and you've got to say, I mean, this hasn't just been, Kilmarnock creating a few more chances. It's been a domination for Kilmarnock for most of the game. They've outclassed Celtic in large parts of the game, especially in the first half. So I think, although McInnes will take positives, I think he'll be quite disappointed Kilmarnock didn't even score. But, I mean, if you look at our game at Ibrox a couple of weeks ago, and again, the same format, we didn't take our chances and Rangers managed to get away with a win. It happens, but I mean, I think it's been a good game for Kilmarnock, but I still think McInnes will most likely be more disappointed than happy.
Alistair, with Celtic winning today, Aberdeen winning yesterday, it now just puts even more pressure on Kilmarnock in this game today. Hopefully they get beat, but it's a massive, massive game for Rangers now.
Yeah, well, we were talking about this earlier on, actually, Graham, and yeah, if Hearts can get a win, and I think it's a big if, to be honest, then it's a bit like the Hibs thing. I mean, how many games can you go? Because you're then that bit further behind again. Let's be honest, are Celtic going to throw away the lead they've got in terms of points? No chance. It's just not going to happen. I mean, you're 31 points as opposed to 19. You're not going to make that up, barring a Devon Locke-style collapse. So the pressure is going to ramp up, but it comes back to what we were saying about Hibs as well. It's behind the scenes at the top level of the club where obviously there are issues, which quite possibly are predicting Clement. But I would not be surprised. I mean, Robbie made the point. St Mirren played really well against Rangers at Ibrox. We didn't play too badly against them. I mean, I think Hearts could actually. I'll be amazed if they win. Sorry, I'll be amazed if they win. But they could get a draw. If they get Rangers on an off day, they could get a draw.
I would snap the hand off for a draw right now, to be honest, because I keep on going back to the fact the record at Ibrox is so bad. But I mean, Reagan, you probably mentioned this earlier on the show, but just to ask, I've seen a lot of people saying, will Aberdeen fall off? Now, obviously, they got hammered by Celtic last week in the Cup. They got bounced back yesterday. Do you think Aberdeen are going to fall off? Because I personally still think they'll get second place, but I just think Celtic will end up winning the league quite comfortably.
Yeah, I think Celtic will win it quite comfortably, Graham. I said this to Robbie in the first part of the show. I think Aberdeen now play St Mirren and they go away to time capsule. So that'll be, I think that'll tell us where Aberdeen are going to be. But I think it's been brilliant for the league overall that people are talking about Aberdeen and they're talking about how great they've been. Because I think Celtic have been great, but I think Aberdeen have shown that they can be a very effective team as well. But no, Graham, I don't expect Aberdeen to be champions.
No, I kind of agree with that. I mean, Robbie, I just want to touch on, again, this is something that's been mentioned a lot as well, is the league is very competitive. There's a lot of teams in and around that kind of 12-point mark, and obviously Hearts and Hibs are on really bad seasons. But what's your take on the quality of the league this season?
I mean, I actually think the quality is quite good this season. I mean, we were touching on it earlier, you know, especially playing the likes of Rangers and Celtic, for example. I mean, you almost always get the teams like your Livingstones, Ross Counties, Hamiltons that, you know, would sit in and play very one-way direct against Celtic, Rangers, or any other team, any of the other big teams in the league. And they've done that every game and try to scrape, you know, more draws and wins over the course of the season. Now it almost feels like, I mean, you just need to take this game, for example. It almost feels like teams are wanting to go out and challenge every team, and, you know, no team's really scared of another team, which it's always refreshing to see, because our league, you know, I think we can all admit it, gets a lot of stick from any other person in the world, you know, for being quote unquote a two-man league. But this season, the quality is really shining through. You just need to look at Aberdeen and how they're doing, you know. Aberdeen, to answer your question that you asked Reagan quickly, I don't think they'll fall off in terms of challenging Rangers, but I also don't see them falling off in terms of being close to Celtic, to be honest. I think Aberdeen, you know, they have the confidence that they can go to any away ground or take on any team at home and get the 3 points. So I think this season, in terms of Aberdeen and any other club, I think the quality is there. Obviously, you have the teams that are going through ruts right now, like Hibs, for example. They're the big team that, you know, they're not playing well, but I think the league's definitely a lot tighter than it has been any other year.
I mean, if David Gray does get sacked, do you think Derek Adams want to come back to Scottish football again?
No chance.
You missed me earlier on, Graham, pointing out that Craig Levein was available, but even that might be a bit much for him. So
I was actually mentioning this on Friday to Reagan and Michael, Alistair, and it's a point I've heard so many times this season. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Michael on that on Friday. Do you think there is too much football getting played? Because I keep hearing people saying that there's too many injuries, there's a lot of games. You look at, for example, England, you got Pep Guardiola saying that his players are tired, it's November. Do you think there is too much football getting played?
Yes and no, if that's not too disingenuous. No, there's not, because actually the way we've got the League Cup structure, the way the number of teams in the league, and the fact is that relatively few teams get into Europe and relatively few teams actually get through the latter stages of the Cup means no, there's not. But when you look particularly in England and these clubs that are complaining, you know, Man City and all the rest of them, and then they go to the other side of the world and play pre-season games, where there is too much is you've got FIFA wanting this ridiculous new tournament, which is, and again, it's trying to get a Super League by the back door, in my view. The Super League has to go away. I don't doubt if Celtic and Rangers were given the chance to go to some kind of European B division, because let's be honest, that's what it would be. They would take it, and they'd probably try and find some way of maintaining their allegiance to Scottish football. So again, then you just got too much football being played. You've got an awful lot of players who are being concentrated into a relatively short, because there's only 12 teams, even the way we play it, league season. And I go back to league reconstruction and bringing young players through. If you're bringing young players through because basically you're not going to get relegated unless you're really dire, I think that will actually improve fans' enjoyment, because you like seeing young guys coming through. I think that'll be good for Scottish football, because it means there's more chance of these people actually making a name for themselves and actually, maybe if they're really good, probably going down south, let's be honest, but getting into the Scottish team. So yes, there is too much football in the sense that FIFA, people like that, are making it like that, and then clubs are too greedy for money, so they go and play all these pre-season friendlies. But no, as far as the players are concerned, no, there's not, I don't think. And if you go to Latin American places like that, they're playing maybe 100 odd games. They play a shitload of football. Didn't stop Argentina winning the World Cup. Now, okay, a lot of their guys play, you know, across here, but most players would rather play. They'd rather play than train. And the only area where I say there is an issue is in the women's game. And there's obviously an issue with ACLs there, because an awful lot of women are getting ACLs. And okay, we don't want to get into the physiology of men and women, but there's clearly an issue there. Other than that, football's not anything like as dirty as it used to be. So although players do get injured, it's not quite as bad as it was. I think we're just about right in Scotland, but other parts of the world, I think it's ludicrous. There's far too much football trying to be introduced just to make money. That's all it comes down to.
Regan, Celtic game finished? I think you're on mute, Regan.
Celtic have won 2-0, yeah, Graham. Celtic go 12 points clear of Rangers and they go level in points with Aberdeen.
Is that Celtic top on goal difference now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
28 is against 14.
Well, the teams are out at Ibrox, so just waiting for the minute silence for obviously remembering Sunday. So the kickoff will be happening very, very shortly. 2-0 win for Celtic. Was it a deserved win, Regan? I know you said Kilmarnock could play very well, but in the end, was it deserved?
I don't know if it was. I would say probably a draw was a fair reflection of the game. I think the bigger chances came for the home team, but I think overall Celtic's class shone through in the end. But I would say probably a fairer result was probably a draw. But like I said, you could probably look back at this match at the end of the season and go, "This was a very big match." But I'm sure the match that you're going to watch in about 2 minutes' time there, that if Rangers don't win that match, then they'll be searching for a brand new manager over the next 2 weeks.
Well, I'm just going to bring the sofa out and hide behind it while kickoff is about to happen. So thank you. Well done, Regan, for hosting today. We will be back on Friday for the Scotland preview. Thank you, as always, to Robbie and to Alistair. We will be back on Friday, like I said, for the preview show and the after-match reaction show. Hopefully Scotland can get a win, and hopefully Hearts can get a win tonight against Rangers. We will see you on Friday. Thank you, as always. Well done, Regan. See you later, folks.
The Locker Room, with all the